Welcome back to another Micmac tabletop review. Today we'll be taking a look at a digital force gauge, that is a trigger pull meter. This one is by Sunkoda. A digital trigger pull meter is a common firearm accessory. Okay, perhaps not common, that may not be the right word. They're more common to gunsmiths or someone like me who reviews firearms. So why are we looking at a trigger pull meter? Well, you may have noticed that I've been posting 3 reviews a month this year. I needed one more for this month, and frankly I was running out of ideas. As I was looking around for a topic, I saw this meter on my workbench and decided it might be a good topic. I bought this Sunkoda digital force gauge a few months back on Amazon. Why this one? Well, to be honest, it was real cheap, but it also had good reviews. Now true, if I'd done a bit more exploring, I might have found a better solution, but I didn't, and so here we are. I'll say straight up that in addition to it being inexpensive, it does work, although it did require a little modification. So if you've been watching my videos, you already know that I've reviewed over 100 firearms so far. I try to provide a comprehensive review on my videos. That includes specifications. One of the firearm specifications that people are commonly interested in is the trigger pull weight. That is, how much pressure is needed to fire the firearm. To be honest, I usually rely on the reports of others for this information when I list out a firearm specifications. If the gun I'm reviewing seems to have a trigger that's a bit off on felt trigger weight to me, I usually take it to a gunsmith friend to get a more accurate reading. But personally, I never really felt the need to own a gauge myself. However, recently, I've been testing the effects of different spring weights on the function of some of my pistols, and while I've been good with just the feel, I also have been curious about actual measurable differences. So here we are with a digital trigger pull gauge. Of course, for me, it was hard to justify putting a lot of money into one of these, so it's admittedly a cheap unit. Only about $35 from Amazon. Now it's true that there are better units out there specifically designed for the purpose, and their costs can be fairly reasonable at only a few dollars more than I paid for this one. So if you need a meter, I'd encourage you to check those out before you buy. But as I said earlier, although this one is cheap, it does get the job done. By the way, if you enjoy this review, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. As for specifications, these particular force gauge devices are designed to measure forces applied in both push and pull directions. They usually come with a few attachments. This specific device is the Sunkoda gauge. Unfortunately, it did not come with an attachment for testing a trigger, but it did come with a hook that I straightened a little, and after adding a piece of aluminum tubing to it in order to extend and adapt it to use to pull a trigger, it works well enough. A little electrical tape to secure the tubing and protect the trigger finished the job. This modification cost me a little under $1, so no big deal. Now generally you can choose units of measure to be displayed and whether you want a peak force measurement or not. A zeroed out function is also provided. In our case, we just want to know the strength in pounds needed to pull a trigger. So I just turn the unit on, set the units to pounds, push the peak button, zero the meter out, and use the extended hook to pull the trigger. I usually take 3 readings and average the 3 for a final report. That's basically it. So let's demonstrate its use on this Ruger LCP 380 pistol. The trigger is supposed to be about 6 pounds. Let's make sure this gun is cleared first. Now, I'll rack the slide. I'll turn the meter on. Select the unit of pounds. Hit the peak button. And then I'll use the meter to pull the trigger. We have a reading of 6.1 pounds. Once again, let's rack the slide. Clear the gauge and pull the trigger. 7.1. That seems a little high, so we'll test it again. And again, zero the gauge again. 6.1. Zero the gauge again. 6.2. So we have three readings close to the 6 pound mark, which appears to verify this gun's trigger pull at about 6 pounds. 6.1 pounds to be exact. Close enough. That's all there is to it. Now a good question might be, can you measure trigger pull by pushing the trigger? And yes, at least with this device, although my measures seem a little high when pushed. 6.5 pounds. As for packaging, the Sunkoda meter came in a plastic case. It came with batteries, a bunch of accessories, and a screwdriver, and different types of fixture heads and an extension rod for the fixtures. It came with a set of instructions, a warranty card, and a certificate of inspection. Of course, I have a specific purpose for this meter, measuring trigger pull, so I really don't care about all this other stuff, but I suppose it's good to have. It's a simple system, but it does seem to work well enough for my purpose. As for pros and cons, okay, first and foremost, not only is this device really cheap, but it does work. I've tested it against known weight factors, and it does appear to give fairly reliable, good results. And that's what really matters, so that's good. It's also easy to set up and use. Now I should say that I've not used on anything heavier than about an 18-pound pole, so I'm not sure about testing heavier loads. As for cons, the obvious is that it didn't come with a proper trigger pull accessory. I had to improvise one. If I had invested another $20 in a Wheeler trigger puller gauge, I'd not have that problem, so that was basically my fault. One more thing. I found the rod accessory connectors to be difficult to tighten enough to keep the pull attachment from rotating when in use. More of a nuisance, really. Now before we end today's video, I'd like to remind you, if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe down below. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this video useful. Now in conclusion, all in all, for $35, this gauge does work and so far has provided pretty reliable readings of trigger pull. I'm happy with it, but to be honest, if I had it to do over, I'd probably just pay a little more and gotten a Wheeler trigger gauge or one of the other units that had a trigger accessory and been done with it. But on the other hand, saving 20 bucks is saving 20 bucks. Any weapon you carry is better than the one you left at home. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll be back for my next tabletop review. Until next time, stay safe.